All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. I think this will be a more intimate conversation, so we'll save time for questions in a little bit. But my name is Kurt Fields. I'm from PwC in our US firm, and I lead our blockchain practice for the US. And I'm joined by my colleague, Maria, who's based out of our London office. Maria?
Thank you very much for having me.
And Maria comes from our AI team. So we'll talk a little bit more today about how we've started to see insights from the journey that we were on with AI. Obviously, it has been a very big year for generative AI, and we've finally seen scaled implementation, whereas we've started to see blockchain finally leave hype cycle and move towards more of a steady path. But there are certain elements of the AI journey that we want to talk through that we think do have parallels to where we think blockchain may go next. I think everyone in the room is probably a firm believer in the transformation journey that we think companies should be on when it comes to blockchain. But we do want to go a little bit deeper into pitfalls that we've seen with AI, and then also, again, what we can learn and bring to this blockchain journey. With that being said, we'll kick off on a positive note. So Maria, I'll start with you. What have you seen from a capability, a storytelling standpoint with the AI journey that has resonated and led to this massive scaled adoption that we've seen in the past 2 years?
That's a very interesting question to start with, because obviously the difference between AI and blockchain is that AI has this esoteric nuance to it, is the fact that we're talking about artificially creating probably one of our most precious traits, intelligence, and this is something that has fascinated humanity for ages. Ages and ages, we wanted to create intelligence machines that will either spice our or boost our God complex or help us do whatever task we have. We didn't want to do it because we were a bit lazy. And because of this narrative, I've seen a lot of public interest in waves coming and going, especially around 2016, 2017, when we started seeing the public discourse picking up a bit more, but being very polarized, being either AI is a huge opportunity for us, a huge threat. Around 2019, 2020, we see a slight decrease of interest because obviously the world was busy doing something else. And suddenly we found ourselves in November 22 when OpenAI decided to release for public a tool that was pretty much an experiment, GPT. And then, since then, everything is history. It went like wildfire. And in fact, what has changed everything is that AI has become a social phenomenon. Is the fact suddenly, although AI has been used and has been part of our life for decades, good decades, the wider society was not necessarily part of the supply chain. But suddenly, now you have a very easy interface to go and be part of the supply chain. Ask AI to do something for you, generate images, text, or help you with your homework, or try to really reason a certain topic. And you find yourself as seeing firsthand what this technology can do. And that was the big moment that no one was seeing coming, including OpenAI. Fast forward in 2024, we remain in a very strong high because we went from, GPT achieving 100 million users, much shorter than any other platform in history, close to having hundreds of millions of users now if you add the users of all your favorite chatbots, which means that we have hundreds of millions of people now being part of an AI supply chain. And that has done probably what a mobile revolution has done to the world of technology, meaning that we have this bottom-up approach that is about to transform fundamentally how we use technology and how we make it work and how we push that transformation to accelerate.
So I think one of the key themes that I'm at least hearing as more of a blockchain person is around consumer accessibility.
Absolutely.
And I think that's been obviously one of the struggles in the blockchain space. We've seen this surge of innovation, and because it is such a composable technology, there's been a double-edged sword of, yes, it's very flexible, but at the same time, there's a lot of permutation that we're seeing right now from a user interface standpoint. And there is still this struggle around making sure that it's resonating with the audience that it's meant for, that it's being built for. The technology holds a lot of promise. I think a lot of people in the room do believe in the mission around accessibility and how we think traditional financial services can be transformed through this technology. But what are some of the ways that you've seen AI really start to push that accessibility needle so that we're seeing mass adoption from the consumer?
I think I gave you kind of a half of an answer, is the fact that we have this ability to access technology very easily. And now we're seeing with the latest feature, voice going a step even further. So in a future, not too distant, we'll not be needing screen other than visualize information. If you think Star Trek and how they're using technology was visualizing data and voice-activated commands to a powerful computer. So that's one accessibility, but what I really didn't touch is the fact that technology was there. So we have made huge progress over building a robust infrastructure in terms of having sufficient data. We have seen tremendous improvements in how models operate, and that was obviously validated by three AI experts winning the Nobel Prizes, which is again a very strong indication that we have made huge leaps on making AI work in specific contexts. So technology was there. All we needed is the accessibility for people to interact with it. But that's not going to be enough, because those both technology have now to go and make a profound transformation into a very messy legacy technology systems. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. It's not that we as individuals cannot access this technology and cannot play with it, but we are having this legacy technology that is hampering our progress, and we need to make sure that the way we add those emerging technology is not going to break the fabric of our organizations. And I suppose that that's where the similarity between blockchain and AI is, that it's a common challenge, and how we navigate that is going to be down of how do we gradually go ahead, or in some cases, if we find ourselves in ability to transform it, as put an X on it and start from the scratch and build it anew. But I suppose that having this balance in between an interface for access, the right technology, is what has made AI be where it is, coupled, of course, with still major interest from the public and its esoteric nature.
It definitely resonates. The last session we were just in talking about tokenization, we were discussing how blockchain is being integrated with some systems that are 40 years old, and in languages that many people may not even understand anymore. But I think that what's interesting is how we're seeing institutions start to understand this technology, but we're still seeing a bit of a gap in that user interface that you're touching on to make this more accessible. Maybe pivoting to some of the challenges that you've seen on this generative AI journey, where has it gone wrong? And how has the industry coalesced around some of these challenges to advance and get around them?
Well, when we started working on responsible AI about 8 or 9 years ago, we had a bit of a challenge in mapping the risk associated with AI, because we didn't have a lot of data. AI was not has not misused or deliver some tangible harms. And in our early conversation with our clients, we had a slide with the risk taxonomy, but we did not convince people that this technology will ultimately have intended and unintended consequences, until we've started seeing reports in the media of cases of misuse of AI, not even AI, more basic technology. And we went so much into this area that we ended up seeing journalists and advocates being specialized in forensically investigating misuses of technology. And that has helped us with the education, that all emerging technology has some risk attached to it, and we need to be able to manage that. And it's not even, rocket science, is common sense, as you don't put a plane in the sky or a car on the roads without, performing safety tests. we shouldn't do this with technology. And perhaps that was the moment when we saw companies understanding they need to be thinking about responsible AI, which include governing the risk, having a clear accountability structure, understanding how to best align their policy and processes. And I think at the moment what we see is a lot of experimentation with generative AI. Just because you can create an account on any of your favorite platforms doesn't mean that you are able to build a full-scale product that will work within the context of your company. So there's a lot of experimentation. However, to scale one said use case at enterprise level, many of our clients say they do not have the confidence they are able to control it, which goes back to the fact that you need to be able to have robust risk management and compliance. And we know risk management compliance is an alien language for the engineers. And I think our work was to actually bring that narrative back to this equalizing point. You need to be able, it's your responsibility to be able to test it. And probably the other two challenges is the fact that the technology ecosystem is very complex, and companies are not ready to manage interacting with potentially thousands of smaller entities and integrated with their larger legacy systems. And probably the third one is all about strategy. You know, it's all fun and nice to be playing with emerging technology, but if you don't have a vision how the new use cases will deliver business value for you, you're just going to struggle and go from whatever is hot on the market next, rather than, again, going back to the basic and saying, what am I trying to achieve using those technologies? And I think you'll be curious to learn if blockchain has similar challenges, or are the challenges different?
Well, I think interestingly, we've started to see more pull through because of generative AI, because GenAI is the scary technology right now for a lot of legacy institutions. Blockchain is finally coming off as the safer play. And we're seeing blockchain at some institutions converge with AI technology, whether it's legacy AI capabilities or generative AI, and it's for a variety of different use cases. The primary reason being that blockchain is memorializing those trust structures. So if there was a governance perspective that the institution had, if there are risks and controls that everyone has validated and agreed to, especially across an ecosystem, blockchain is serving as that governance mechanism. And so we're seeing this level of comfort around the technology because it is immutable, because it's so composable, and because you can drive transparency around what is happening. A large problem with generative AI in terms of being able to communicate what's happening in the proverbial black box. Blockchain is getting pulled through a lot. And so, you know, whether we're talking about things like model traceability, so if an organization is using an AI model, how do we know what data was used? What was the input data? What happened to the model? Was there model drift? What does the output data look like? And oftentimes that's not tracked well across an organization, let alone an ecosystem of companies. And so blockchain does start to fill some of that void. And then we're seeing some of the more progressive use cases start to emerge as well. Virtual agents that are going to be self-compensating. Again, legacy systems can't fully enable that. If a virtual agent can make money, how do you facilitate that transaction? Blockchain can play some of that role. Synthetic content, synthetic reality, another very powerful emergent use case this year that we're seeing a lot of companies start to dive more seriously into, but again, begs the question of how do you trust the content? How do you trust who was involved? And blockchain still is perceived as that default technology that drives some of that trust. So it's been interesting to see generative AI as the, perceived as the more risky technology right now, pull through blockchain as that safety mechanism. Again, if done right, we know that obviously governance needs to be designed properly, but it has started to pull through blockchain more in those equations.
I was really happy when you invited me to come and share the stage with you on a panel, because we have convergent expertise. However, I've been on a lot of events discussing AI and its implication, but so rarely I see the two worlds converge on a stage and from a conversation perspective. And I feel at times that AI behaves like this very spoiled princess. She doesn't want to share the stage with any other technology and say, like, look at me, I'm so pretty. It's like, I'm enough. I'm going to solve all your problems. And suddenly you see there are the prettier princess like blockchain and quantum, but they don't occupy the stage because AI says like, not now, not now, no, keep the stage for me. And I think it's important for you guys in the blockchain community to come closer because realistically speaking, us princesses, we're not going to come. But we do have, the trust, the issue of trust in AI is a major one. And we've been saying for a while, probably is just a matter of time for us witnessing a Cambridge Analytica AI scandal that will put things very much in perspective. And I think we need technology like blockchain to give us the confidence, whether the provenance of data or validating identity. I'm sure that those issues are going to be huge, and AI by itself cannot solve it. But I think we need to hear more of how those technology converge under use case. And I suppose that's where us in our respective team, PwC US and UK, are looking to it because we are technology agnostic and we are all around use cases. And I think you're telling me we have developed a product that is very much at the convergence of GenAI and blockchain.
Yes, I mean, I think one of the examples, obviously, around model tracking is something that's very common with our clients right now as they look at the scaling of AI models, and they're using blockchain as a ledger to track the usage of those models. And I think taking a step back, I'm hearing a lot of similar themes from the journey on AI, with AI, to what we're now living and breathing within the blockchain world. It comes back to trust. And it's not just trust in the technology, it's more about trust in the implementation of the technology. We're seeing less questions about does the technology work, and more questions around how do I get it to play within my broader technology stack? How does it present within my existing products and services to consumers? And really it's, again, less of a doubt around the capability for both of these technologies, and it's more about how do I tell a clear, consistent story around the way that trust is measured, the way it's defined, and the way that it's continuously assured. We know there's a lot of work to do because the ecosystem continues to grow so rapidly, but I think there are a lot of those consistent themes between the two technologies, and we're seeing that play out now that they are converging so much. I know we are running a little low on time, so maybe we'll open up to the floor for any questions. Well, I can maybe start with a blockchain perspective, and then I'll toss to AI. But I think one of the areas that we've gotten a lot of interest finally in from banks specifically is what that translation looks like for their existing governance, risk, and controls into a blockchain environment. For many years, it was so ethereal, and I think they're finally seeing the power of codifying those rules into whether it's a smart contract or even just the notion of using a ledger to track what's happening, an immutable ledger. We know that their legacy systems, their current technology stacks just have too many holes, right? And it's a lot of human power today that is surfacing those problems, surfacing those issues, and then obviously resulting in some of the scenarios that you just mentioned. But I think blockchain is serving as that data layer, but I think AI obviously then presents an opportunity to develop those real-time insights about what is happening and whether or not human intervention may be needed.
I think it's much more than resulting to technology here. We're talking about some unethical practices, and what I think we need to be doing much better as society is like stop hiding behind organizational complexity and any other reason why we are opaque. And with the emergence of AI and its inability at times to explain itself, there is a big push for transparency. First, explainability, which is the technical, obviously, ability to explain the inner works of a machine and how we reach a certain conclusion. But with that, there's a higher push around the world in various regulatory practices for transparency. And that transparency means like having the right information provided to the right stakeholders, being the wider public, being the regulators, being your customer, shareholders, what so have you. Also because AI is augmenting and exacerbating any ill it finds where it's being deployed, is necessary for companies to clean up where they are. And I think we've seen so many cases when AI has magnified the human flaws, being, discriminatory algorithms or any other issue. So I suppose that this is very much a human problem. It's about how ethical your company is truly, because, no matter how many well-designed technology will put in place, sooner or later, it will out you. And I think it's the right moment now with this trend on transparency to start being a bit more honest. Also because you see the societal trends or perception changing very much. So we've looked at public perceptions when it comes to AI, and especially the Gen Z, as very sensitive to values and how well their values are reflected in the products and services they are consuming, and with that they put a lot of pressure on companies. Besides all the other shareholders, regulatory and what have you, it's a one that comes from the society. So I think that companies like the ones you mentioned, they will struggle on long term, because it's all about preserving a trust in your brand. And if you continue to operate in this way, no technology will save you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I think it depends very much on industry, industry by industry, because each of them will have different data availability or different abilities to integrate using GenAI in their processes. Probably one of the use case we see repeating is obviously around customer call centers. So interaction with customers. We see this across a variety of industry, but this is not new. It did not happen in 2022 or 2024. It's been happening for a while, the whole digitization of consumer interaction and the ability to automate some of that. What generative AI has done is taking the technology at the next level and giving an ability to interact in a more personalized and automated way. In companies like ours, is all about knowledge. So professional services as creative industries, we see a lot of use cases around processing knowledge from, tracking regulatory developments and generating insight, or querying contracts or any other type of documents. For us as professional services, it's like it would have taken a significant amount of time to be able to dig into those documents and being able to extract the relevant insight. And probably lastly is all about collaborations and communication. And we've seen obviously with our own ChatGPT, PwC GPT, forgot the name. And of course with Copilot having the capabilities integrated, how much the whole collaborations in the office is being changed. And those three use cases perhaps are the ones that are both easy to implement and also will be suitable for more than one industries. But there will be specific use cases for different industry as well.
I think maybe even just to touch on the human element that we're seeing across use cases is, a lot of people will often ask us, is generative AI going to remove the need for my job or reduce what I do? And it's the answer is no. It's going to reinvent your job. And that's what we're seeing in the way that we're using it right now at our firm, in that it's allowing our people to do different things, whether it's about efficiency or providing a new offering. I mean, even at a micro level, when we think about our engineering teams, the fact that generative AI can be used for code generation now, I mean, that's a massive opportunity. So it really is allowing individuals, groups, organizations on the whole to reinvent what they do and how they do it.
augmentation versus replacement. So that's what we've seen that AI is doing, GenAI
Yeah.
is doing for us.
Sorry about asking for use cases again, but I don't know if you mentioned all of them about the intersection between blockchain and Gen AI, the ones that you're seeing right now that are interesting, other ones that you mentioned, so we can get some ideas of how it's being done right now.
So I would say there are three that have been, I think, most active for us, two more than the last one. One around synthetic content creation. So you think about either content creators or consumers, no matter which side of the equation you're on right now, there is this concern around IP tracking and then validation of identities, whether it's an individual or an entity that's involved in that content creation and distribution, and then the verification of the content for its useful life. And obviously, generative AI is creating the content and any of the subsequent functions around that content, but legacy tech is not fulfilling that traceability role, that function. And so we're seeing a lot of interest from companies to use blockchain. There are some industry consortia around this right now, but we are seeing companies start to use distributed ledger technologies to play some of that role. I think what we're not at yet is allowing for the financial transactions around content to be facilitated on blockchain for the big players, but they are using it for traceability of the content. And again, that verification and validation of who's involved, because that's one of the biggest concerns right now, obviously. The second one then is around a more rudimentary use case around model tracking. So, Maria was touching on responsible AI practices. One of the biggest concerns everyone has is around input data. How did you even train the model? What did the model do? Do we know if the model's been modified by someone? Again, legacy systems fall short in tracking what's happening and providing transparency to an enterprise, to a regulator, to any other stakeholder. And so we're seeing that usage of blockchain to track some of those pieces of the story related to AI. And then the last one is around virtual agents. So exciting idea that generative AI could be performing so well that it's making money in real time for you. But again, wild, wild west, right? And the fear is that these virtual agents run rogue in terms of what they're doing, who they're making money for, where that money is going. And blockchain could play a role in that traceability. I think we're out of time. But we'll stick around for a little bit. But thank you all so much for joining us.